So where are we today, Bill?
Rick, today we are in the city of Portsmouth, and we are visiting the North Cemetery of Portsmouth, which is the second oldest cemetery in the city.
It's also a beautiful spot.
It is. Today, it is absolutely gorgeous. And I must say we were in the fall here when we first visited, and I had kind of a grim view of this cemetery, but today it is beautiful. It really is. And the city of Portsmouth deserves to be a pat on the back for taking care of this beautiful historical place. It is kind of the burial place of who's who in Revolutionary War Portsmouth. Among others are Colonel John Hart, who was the commander of the New Hampshire regiments at Louisburg, who also deeded the land to the town. And then there is William Whipple, excuse me, and his manservant and enslaved Prince Whipple. And then there is also John Langdon. And all three of those men were very important in the Revolution. One of them being a signer of the Constitution, and the other a signer of the Declaration of Independence.
Also, don't forget your namesake,
Yes.
sort of. Captain Thomas Thompson was the commander of the Raleigh. We'll talk a little more about that when we talk about John Langdon in another segment. But the same ship, or it is the ship that is depicted on the seal of New Hampshire, which you do see right up there. We weren't able to cover everybody in this cemetery, but we have covered the Whipples and John Langdon, and we will be talking about them and John Langdon in a different segment.
Very good. Let's take a
okay.
look. Let's go over and look at the Langdon Memorial.
We're going to do Langdon at this point?
Oh, I'm sorry. We'll cut that. Let's go take a look at the Whipples.
So this doesn't look like John Langdon's grave.
No, we are fortunately at the grave of William Whipple. William Whipple was a signer, was at the Second Continental Congress, and he signed the Declaration of Independence. And I think Rick and I agree that the signers of the Declaration of Independence from New Hampshire, there were three of them, and we'll be visiting their graves as we go along. But they don't get a whole lot of what I want to say, publicity.
Well,
They're not as well known. I guess if you take sixth grade history in New Hampshire, you're probably going to know that William Whipple might have been the signer of the Declaration from New Hampshire, or one of them.
if I did take sixth grade New Hampshire history, and probably it was in a book, textbook or something. But to tell you the truth, I don't, until we started doing this project, I couldn't have told you that much about William Whipple. And we're going to look at John Langdon too. Same thing. And I'm not quite sure why that is. But.
Yeah, other states, their signers, John Hancock, for instance, get a lot of publicity. I guess they just don't have the right publicity agents that are working for them.
I don't know.
But, these men were incredibly industrious. Whipple was a self-made man. He grew up in poverty, but he was a cabin boy as a teenager. He went to sea on a merchant ship, and by the time he was 21, he was a captain of his own vessels sailing the West Indies. After that, he retired from the sea, and he partnered up with his brother, Joseph. And like a lot of New England merchants of the time, they participated in the triangle trade, which was lumber, rum, and slaves. As a side note, he married his own cousin, Catherine Moffat, who we can't find for some reason. She doesn't seem to be in the locality. But Whipple was right from the beginning, was interested in the quest for independence. And he was elected to the Committee of Safety in Portsmouth, and he was a delegate to the Provincial Convention in Exeter in 1776. And of course, he did go on to sign the Declaration in Philadelphia. he was a brigadier general during the war, and not only that, he was a great general during the war, and was he was instrumental he commanded the New Hampshire regiments at Saratoga and was instrumental in gaining the victory. And he was present at the formal surrender of General Burgoyne. So he from a ship's captain, a cabin boy, a ship's captain, signer of the Declaration of Independence, and a general, and a good one. He served his country in so many different ways, and yet is rather obscure figure in New Hampshire and U.S. history. Certainly, more other people get a lot more accolades and publicity, but nonetheless, interestingly enough, I'm going to kind of get down here to the bottom. I love the inscription here, the little part right here, and it says, "In him a firm and ardent patriotism was united with universal benevolence and every social virtue." Says a lot about the man on his tombstone. I think that's it. We are going to go over another interesting side story about him. Is his manservant that was Prince Whipple, who was a black man and his personal slave.
It's interesting. We're standing here only a few days after the Memorial Day weekend for 2024, and you'll notice the new flags. And one of the pictures I put up on Facebook and Instagram the other day was a picture of Whipple's grave where we're going, and very appropriately, there's also a flag there.
Yes,
because he did fight next to his, I guess you can say nothing else but owner, William Whipple. And interestingly enough, there was a story that we saw in a number of places that he was told that he would grant Prince his freedom if he served with him in the war, which Prince did. And basically afterwards, he didn't do that right off the bat. In fact, we found out later from one of the docents at the Moffat House that it was a year before he died. But in the articles we had read, it said that his wife ended up doing it, and it never happened during his lifetime. But in any case, I think it says something about William Whipple that he eventually got there. And I think there was a quote in here somewhere about what he thought about slavery.
Yes, he wrote a letter in 1779 to Josiah Bartlett, who, by the way, was one of the other signers of the Declaration of Independence from New Hampshire. And in that letter, he's quoted as saying, "A recommendation is gone thither for raising some regiments of blacks. This will, I suppose, lay a foundation for the emancipation of those poor wretches in that country, and I hope be the means of dispensing the blessings of freedom to all the human race in America." Far beyond his time, even though he did own slaves.
Yep. Well, let's go take a look at Prince. And as we've said with most of our people whom we're talking about, rest in peace, William.
I think we can say thank you for your service.
And thank you for your service.
We would not be standing here this day if it had not been for him.
People like him. And yep. Okay, let's go take a look at Prince. So here we are at Prince Whipple's grave, and notice that appropriately enough, as we mentioned over there, that he has a nice new flag for Memorial Weekend.
Absolutely.
And something new, his wife is buried right next to him. Mm-hmm. And that sign was not there last time that we were here, so someone has taken the initiative to point out where his wife is, which I think is a very nice gesture. Prince Whipple, as we spoke before, did accompany William Whipple on during the War of Independence. And there was even one thought at one point, the famous picture of Washington, as crossing the Delaware, that Prince Whipple was in that.
Yes, there is a black man depicted.
There is a black man depicted in that. But as it turns out, William was serving in the Continental Congress at that time. So it's probably not likely that that's who it was.
It's more legend.
But a good legend, yeah. As we mentioned, he did get his freedom in 1784. And we did get this from Erica McAvoy of the Moffat Ladd Historic House Landmark, which is a place that is worth visiting.
Absolutely.
And that was where William lived as well. Where we had read that he was not freed before William's death, she had, and we actually have in the book, a picture of the actual document that granted him his freedom. Prince was also interesting in some other ways, not only that he accompanied William, but he himself and 19 other American slaves petitioned the New Hampshire legislature for manumission. Yeah. Manumission is to be freed. And it's likely, he knew how to read and write. So it's very likely, we can't prove that, I guess, but that the petition was written by him. He married his wife, Dinah, on her 21st birthday, and she also gained her freedom. And they lived on the Whipple property.
Yes, they did.
And they raised 7 children. And you found out something about Dinah, I believe.
Yeah. Oh, yes. She was an equal in stature, as was Prince. After she was emancipated, she founded the Ladies' Charitable African School here in Portsmouth, and to the dedication and education of black enslaved children. So she also belonged to another charitable organization for needy families, and so she was quite a giving lady, and she was fortunate and as well as Prince, that Catherine Moffat gave them a home in the back, and it's still standing in the back of the Moffat mansion here in Portsmouth.
Yep.
And it is said that when Prince and William returned from Philadelphia after signing the Declaration of Independence, they had some chestnuts, and they planted a tree in front of the home, which is also said to be there.
Still
today.
there, yeah, it's what I've heard.
Yeah. I'm not sure if that's legend or not, but maybe we'll check it out later.
Well, William is buried right over there. We're back there a little bit when we were up there. And interestingly enough, some of the articles and some of the research that I did on Prince, apparently originally there was not a real grave here or a gravestone. Yes. There was a cross, something, but it was replaced by local veterans, yes. Probably the GAR.
Yeah, most assured. It looks very much like a GAR stone. So.
And one of his daughters and his granddaughters are also and one of his granddaughters is close by.
Yes.
I think it's very appropriate that his wife is now marked, and that he's marked with a very, very nice looking gravestone. So Prince.
Yes. Well, again, thank you for your service.
And thank you for your service.
You're a notable American hero.
You are.